Good Monday afternoon, and thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. New today, concrete barriers are up outside the Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis as tensions continue to rise over the immigration enforcement in Minnesota and the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent. Our photographer captured crews putting up the barriers and chain link fences and some protesters outside the building this morning. Over the next 2 days, we are expecting a surge of federal agents to support immigration enforcement here in the Twin Cities. In a Fox News interview on Sunday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said she is sending hundreds more federal agents. She described the hundreds already here as on a mission to uncover corruption. This afternoon, a new video posted by Homeland Security over the weekend shows a different angle leading up to the fatal shooting of Renee Good, and it is getting a lot of traction online. The video is 3.5 minutes long. About 40 seconds in, Good's Honda Pilot comes into view, blocking part of the road. Her vehicle reappears around the 2-minute mark, then disappears from view. A little later, about 3 minutes in, you see the ICE agents approach her car. One of the agents, who we now know is Jonathan Ross, the agent who fired the fatal shots, walks around her car filming on his cell phone. You can also hear the agents say, "Get out of the car." Good then puts her vehicle in reverse, and that's where the video stops. Right now, we do not know who shot the video or why it was cut off right before the shooting. Nearly a week after that fatal ICE shooting, tensions are also increasing between the Trump administration and Minneapolis leaders. Raya Katene breaks down what they're saying.
On the ground in South Minneapolis, a growing memorial for Renee Good continues bringing people together. Meanwhile,
I dropped an F-bomb and they killed somebody.
A deep divide persists between local and federal leaders as the national spotlight on the city intensifies.
I think the killing somebody is the inflammatory element here, not the F-bomb.
Joining Kristen Welker on NBC's Meet the Press, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey acknowledged his responsibility to bring down the temperature, but defended saying this earlier this week.
To ICE, get the f*** out of Minneapolis.
Frey's calling for a joint investigation involving Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, arguing that an FBI-only probe lacks transparency and claiming the White House is pushing a false narrative.
When there is debate about baseline facts, like, for instance, did the ICE agent get run over? Guys, the answer is no. It didn't happen.
I truly believe this officer, in his mind, thought his life was in danger, which allows him to use lethal force.
Welker also spoke with border czar Tom Homan, who says Good's actions could fall within the definition of terrorism.
But you don't have evidence.
Pardon me?
You don't have evidence that she's a domestic terrorist.
I don't know what secretary has that I don't. I'm not going to judge what the secretary says, but if you look up the definition of terrorism, it certainly can fall within that. But I think we all got to agree there was no reason for this lady to do what she did.
Homan says it's important to allow the investigation to play out and defended the administration's decision to cut state investigators out, giving the FBI exclusive control over the evidence and findings.
I trust that the FBI would do a thorough investigation. They're professionals, so let them do the investigation.
When asked if the autopsy should be made public, Homan said that's a question for the FBI. In Minneapolis, Raya Katene, KARE 11 News.
Over the weekend, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was on multiple networks saying Renee Good's shooting was justified. Noem was asked on CNN if she feels she spoke about the investigation too soon.
I had just been in Minneapolis and had been with those officers, had seen what they were facing on the streets every day, and had talked to their supervisors as soon as the incident happened and had gotten the facts and seen videos before I ever went to talk at that press conference. And the Trump administration and President Trump is the most transparent and open government that we've ever had.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara responded to Noem's comments, pushing for an impartial investigation into the shooting.
I will be the first one to stand up for my cops when a situation happens and it is abundantly clear that there's no indication to think that an officer could have possibly done anything else. I'll be the first one to stand up and say, my cop put their lives on the line and they did what they have to do, and I have no reason to think that it wasn't anything other than our policy and lawful. But I think, we have to use caution, even as Tom Homan has said, and allow a full and impartial investigation to proceed.
Minneapolis public schools are back open today for the first time since closing for safety concerns last week. On Friday, dozens of MPS families and educators spoke out about ICE enforcement happening around schools, including an incident that escalated outside of Roosevelt High School.
The most important thing is that kids are safe, that they continue their learning, and that ICE leaves our neighborhoods.
We know that the Twin Cities Academy is doing online learning through Friday, and MPS is offering online learning for anyone who needs it through February 12th. Right now, the U.S. Treasury is taking action against Minnesota amid widespread fraud investigations here. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just announced the measures during a trip to Minnesota. The agency is already investigating how taxpayer money ended up overseas through scandals such as Feeding Our Future. One of the new measures today includes new requirements for banks in Hennepin and Ramsey counties related to overseas transactions. Danny Spiewak got a chance to ask the secretary about it in a one-on-one interview.
Is there any part of this from your administration that is political toward Minnesota?
Nothing's political toward Minnesota. Well, look, Governor Walz has been incompetent and is deserving of blame here. This happened on his watch.
Governor Walz previously said he welcomed the Treasury Department's investigation, but questioned the administration's motives. You can find continued coverage of the ICE shooting and fraud on our website, KARE11.com, and also streaming on KARE 11+. Another big story we are tracking this afternoon, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is under investigation. The Department of Justice saying it opened an investigation into the Fed's renovations of its D.C. headquarters. Prosecutors say he lied about the cost to the Senate Banking Committee. It came out to about $500 million. In a statement, Powell said the charges are retribution for not following the president's preferences. This afternoon, we know Luigi Mangione, the man accused of shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO, could have his federal trial start before the end of the year. But his attorneys are trying to get 2 charges thrown out, including one that would result, or could result, I should say, in the death penalty. In federal court Friday, the judge said jury selection could begin as early as September and opening statements as early as October. Mangione has pleaded not guilty. New today, President Trump saying Iran wants to negotiate after Trump threatened to strike the Islamic Republic over its crackdown on protesters. Meanwhile, in Iran, human rights groups say more than 500 people have already been killed in the violent suppression of those protests. NBC's Richard Engel has more.
Despite a near complete internet blackout in Iran imposed by the government, some information and images are emerging, and they are showing a crackdown by the government against these demonstrators that is increasingly violent, increasingly deadly. A human rights organization says the death toll now is over 500, including about 50 security forces, but the protests are not stopping. Activists say they are lighting fires to government buildings. They are being arrested. This human rights organization say about 10,000 people so far have been detained in roughly the last 2 weeks. Activists tell me that the government is arbitrarily handing down death sentences against some of these demonstrators without trial. President Trump says he's now contemplating possible military action. He said that the Iranian regime does seem interested in negotiations, but he said that he might carry out some military action to support the protesters even before those negotiations take place, if they take place.
Today, Elon Musk's Grok AI is facing global scrutiny for allowing users to create sexually explicit images. Both Indonesia and Malaysia announced today they will be blocking the AI tool, becoming the first 2 countries to do so, while the UK watchdog said it has launched an investigation into X. In some cases, Grok AI has reportedly been used to create sexualized images of minors. Musk has resisted limiting Grok's functions, saying that doing so would be a form of censorship. Instead, his position is that users should be held accountable for making illegal content. New this afternoon from Target, the Minnesota-based company planning to open 30 new stores. They will be mostly located across the South, with several in Florida, Texas, and North Carolina. Target did not provide opening dates yet, but a few stores in the project are already up and running. Long-term, Target says it wants to add more than 300 locations over the next decade. This expansion comes after the company announced 1,000 layoffs and hundreds of job eliminations back in October. Today, the price of gold reaching an all-time high, topping $4,600 per ounce in early trading. Gold already up 6% since the start of the new year. While the commodity price did retreat a little since this morning, it remains high, being a very profitable investment in the recent weeks. Analysts say that the appeal of gold has increased due to global political instability. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.